Hey guys, thanks for tuning us in for this 15th episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include Oklahoma State Senator Brent Howard, Dr. Steve Webb, country singer Raleigh Keegan, news journalist Ashleigh Banfield, sports handicapper Brandon Lang, and country singer Zach Neal. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and make sure and share with your friends. Our first guest is our friend and Oklahoma State Senator Brent Howard. We'll be talking about the upcoming census along with the independent studies. First off, Brent, thanks so much for taking the time, and good September to you now.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Glad to be here on a day after some rain.
Yeah,
too.
and still have some rain chances around for the next day. So we don't always get to say that.
We don't. I was reading one of my friends on Facebook, Richard McMahon out in Warren. Was saying, can you remember the last time we've had 12 hours of steady rain? And really can't.
No, there's not. If you do remember it, there's not many.
Yeah,
not many times you remember that.
All of it soaked in. We're getting ready to plant wheat, so I guess this is going to be good timing for us. get in a final kill on weeds and be able to sow wheat.
That's right. Now, as session gets back underway in February, obviously a lot of things going on up until then. I know we wanted to talk about some of the interim studies coming up, but I know that the census is big on everybody's minds. I know it seems like everybody that we bring in is talking about this, but that's also because of the importance and what that means locally.
Yes, and I'm sure everybody's hearing the commercials. That's because we're in our final 3 weeks. With normally census is completed by June 30th, but due to COVID, everything, and really being able to get out and knock doors, it was extended to originally going to be October 31st, but they've moved that back. So September 30th is our deadline for being counted, and then that counts towards our representation at the federal level. Really is a big part, but also how big this Senate district is going to be, how big this House district is going to be. Oklahoma has gone through some growth. I think we're going to be projected probably right under 4 million people, which is up from about 3.7 in our last census. So we've had some growth, but the deal is that growth has all been in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and a few other spots. So as that growth moves away from Altus, that also means that our representation in Altus and really all of rural Oklahoma moves away too. Right now, this Senate District 38 covers about 5 1/3 counties. The projections are I'm going to have at least 6 full counties by the time that all the census gets in. So if we want more voices in rural Oklahoma is where it's really lagging in the census response rate. So,
and it's really a quick and easy thing. I've heard Roger Kerr, I've heard Gary Strickland, I've heard everybody talk about how quick it is. And we actually did a Facebook Live a couple months ago, and I waited specifically for that night to do it before we did the Facebook Live. 5 minutes, I was done.
Yeah. And it's all based upon where you live, or actually where you lived on April 30th. So if you had an address, if you've got a different address, if you moved during that time, you just go online, and then you don't have to have the number that's actually printed to that address. You can just say lost your card or need to search for it. And then you'll be able to pull it up, and you can fill out everything there for your entire household. And it really is about 5-7 minutes if you're going through and having to look up your address as opposed to having that number in.
Yep. So an easy process, census.gov. I believe is the website to check that out. Now, Brent, you mentioned there about representation, about the possibility of even picking up extra counties. Now, how does that affect the representation? Obviously, the number of representatives doesn't change, but does it just shrink the representation size of the larger markets? Is that how that's going to work as well?
Pretty much. Whenever we're talking about Oklahoma State Senate, there's 48 senators, and so that's been in place for quite a while. And then it's based upon Supreme Court ruling at the U.S. Same for the House. There's 101 House members, but it's based upon the representation and equal representation for that. So right now, as this Senate district was drawn, I represent roughly, or at 2010, represented roughly 77,000 people. With the growth in Oklahoma, we're going to be at about 83,000. And whenever you talk about Oklahoma City, Yukon, Deer Creek, really that's where most of it's kind of gone, is in that Canadian county. There's 83,000 people that have moved just into that area. And so we're going to look at a Senate seat's going to have to be added there just to cover that population. And so that means we've got to take away from everybody else. Very preliminary numbers for Southwest Oklahoma. Again, started out at 77,000 in 2010. And right now, I think that really there's probably only about 74,000 in my Senate district.
Okay.
So not only, if I would have stayed at 77, I would have had to pick up 6,000 people. But we've actually lost people from this district. And so I don't have to just pick up 6,000. I've got to pick up an extra 3 from the ones that we lost. And when you talk about 9,000 people, that's pretty much the entire population of Tillman County.
Right.
Or it'd be even the entire rest of Custer County plus some of Caddo, big portion of Beckham. So where's that roughly 9,000 people going to come from?
So that's just one thing that the census affects, and then again, dollars and cents coming in locally into the state, federally, and all that stuff. All important. Again, census.gov.
Yes.
For more information. Now, the interim studies. I know the stuff that you are involved with. You said not necessarily doing the interim studies as of yet, but where are we timeline wise as we get ready for the new session?
Yes, thank you for that, Cameron. Well, interim studies are based upon what are they studying? And so then that gets assigned to committees. Again, I'm on Judiciary Committee, General Government Committee, Agriculture Committee, and none of my committees have had studies that have been scheduled yet. It's up to the chair to put those on the schedule. The main problem and why we're kind of getting pushed back, obviously, public safety, jails, criminal procedure, those type of things. That's high priority right now just because of what's going on. But we're having a lot of renovations going on in the Capitol. So we only have one meeting room, and we're just trying to schedule around that. And obviously some of those things got in on higher priority. My study that I've got, again, I'm trying to look at DOC population as well as being able to house them in county jails and shift some of the costs to Medicaid. I'm still trying to get who I'm going to have basically come testify or give hearings and give that information. But I think that it'll be scheduled probably 1st of October. So we might have information on that next time we visit, which will be good. Trying to think what the most recent study was. I believe there was a transportation study that was put in place, and then I know that there's one that's going to come up kind of dealing with county governments and the use of some of these CRB funds, County Road and Bridges.
Okay. And, of course, if folks have any questions, want any more information, email still the easiest?
Email still the easiest. I'm here around town. I'd be wearing masks most of the time, so you can stop me in Walmart if you see me there, or Fox's. But email at brent.howard@oksenate.gov is best way, because that always comes in, and it's your own words that get messaged to me. You can call my Senate office, 405-521-5612. But again, anything kind of gets transcribed before it gets sent to me. So your own email, your own words, best way to get to me.
Best way to do it. All right. Well, Brent, always good to visit with you. Stay safe over the next month, and looking forward to hearing about those October meetings next time we visit.
All right. Sounds good.
Up next is social media intelligence expert, police officer, and the founder of Safe School Systems, Dr. Steve Webb. We'll be talking about internet safety for our children, along with the book, Education in a Violent World. Thanks so much for taking the time, first off, to be on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
One of the big concerns, and I now have a teenager as well, is keeping our kids safe online is a huge concern. And Steve, I know this is there's so many smaller portions to that question as well, right?
Well, Certainly, and there's so many things that are going on right now because so many schools have gone to a virtual learning situation, and kids are at home. And I've got 4 children myself. We certainly think that they're safe. They're in our house. They're in the room. They're probably quiet, which we equate with being behaved. And in fact, when they're not on their whatever the remote learning platform is, they're inquisitive. They're going on other things, and actually they're more susceptible to predators right now because they're looking for that social interaction, and they're letting people in to their world that maybe normally they wouldn't.
And what are some of the big signs that parents need to be really mindful of when their students, their children are dealing with online work?
Yeah, well, you need to go in and make sure that they're not downloading different apps on their phone, and whatever apps that they have, you need to go in as a parent and you need to look them up and look at the good and the bad and the ugly on all of these apps. But you also need to look for things like a Tor browser, and the Tor browser is the way you get to the dark web. If your kid's got a Tor browser app, which is a purple Vidalia-looking onion on their phone, or if they've downloaded the browser to their laptop, you need to get that off because there's no good reason for a child to be on the dark web.
And when you talk about the dark web and some of the concerns or worries that you have with children, what are the biggest things is a concern for? I guess is the question I'm not trying to ask. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. I mean, there's all kinds of concerns with the dark web, but the dark web is there because it maintains your privacy. You can browse while maintaining your privacy, and if you get a VPN, a privacy node, then you can make sure that nobody knows what you're browsing, and that's led to a lot of criminal behavior. You can find all kinds of, besides just the pornographic images, very traumatic images, very traumatic stories, things that the normal person wouldn't believe that is actually out there. And this dark web is 3 times larger than what your normal Google search would be. And so you can buy drugs, you can buy weapons, you can hire a hitman if you need to. And it's very difficult to trace these people down. I mean, law enforcement works on this every single day, and it's just very difficult. It allows predators to get direct access to your children, and your children may never know where they're actually at.
And, one of the things with it being virtual school and kids not being face-to-face, you think, you don't have to worry about the peer pressure, the bullying. But that is cyberbullying has now become maybe a bigger issue than the face-to-face bullying, hasn't it?
Oh, it's a much bigger issue, and like I said, kids are more susceptible to trying to use that electronic form to maintain their social groupings. And there's 160 million Snapchat users a day, but what parents don't understand is Snapchat has add-ins like YOLO, you only live once, is what YOLO stands for, and it's an anonymous chat, and that allows people to anonymously talk about your child and bully your child and be able to say things that that they would never say in person. And this is 24/7. When that phone dings at 2 a.m. in the morning, your child is looking at it if you've given them the phone.
That's right. And what are maybe some of the biggest concerns with cyberbullying and protection of our children?
CDC has moved suicides of our young children up to number 2 in terms of major causes of death. And that's largely because of the mental health issues that our children are facing, and they don't want to seek help. Kids are really good at saying nothing's wrong, don't worry about it. But in reality, they're seeing a lot of things, they're dealing with a lot of things, and we as parents equate that quietness. We equate the fact that they seem to be doing okay, they say they're doing okay, and parents are busy. Very rarely do you have anything but both parents working, and they've got their own social networking. The communication is a breakdown with our children right now because we rely on electronics. We've got to get back to where we communicate with our kids, that we're aware of our environments, and we just need to make sure that we understand the world that these children are living in is different than ours, and we'll never get them back into our world. We've got to figure out how to save these kids in their world.
And obviously, doing things virtually, there are so many issues of being online. What are some of the hazards of so much time being spent online by our children?
Well, privacy certainly is one of the number one issues. People can get your private information and make fake profiles and do things with your information that could cause you a lot of stress. But predatory behavior is the number one issue that we have with people that are able to get into your children's social space by, and the kids are looking for something to help with their self-esteem, especially that 11, 12, 13-year-old age. And they're allowing people to get into their social networks that may not have before, because they say, hey, you're beautiful, you're sexy, I can't believe your parents would do that. And they get to be friends with them. And we arrested a couple of males not too long ago who had lured a kid, an 11-year-old kid, out of their house and abducted this child by saying they were going to kill themselves. They had befriended the child on an online gaming platform and said, well, we're going to kill ourselves if you don't come help us. And the kid left his house, and they took him 3 states away. That's my biggest worry, is kids being at home are looking for a social network, and they may allow that predator to get into their world.
And speaking of that world, there is an online world. And what do you think are the biggest things that parents have got to keep their eyes on, I guess I should say, because obviously it's a virtual world, one you can't see, but still nonetheless, it's one that we've got to be wary of, right?
Absolutely. Be in the room with your child when they're doing their online learning. Understand what's on that child's electronic device. Go in and Google every single app that's on there that you're not aware of, and talk to them about those apps, the good and the bad and the ugly. This communication with your child will let them know that you're involved with this. And if you go in there and you see that they've got 3 calculators on their phone, they're not using 3 calculators. They've probably got 2 cloaking apps that they're cloaking and they're hiding pictures and chats and things that they don't want you to see. And when that starts occurring, you can guarantee they're looking at some traumatic images.
And again, the book, Education in a Violent World, I want to give you a chance to tell our listeners a little bit about that book and how folks can find more information about it as well.
Yeah, as a law enforcement officer and an educator, I mean, I traveled the U.S. talking to people in communities and interviewing people in communities that have had tragedy, that have had major shootings. I've been to Columbine High School. I've been to Parkland, Santana, Marshall County. All of these places have one thing in common, is they just really didn't think it would happen there. And there were signs. There were things there that were occurring within this child's world. And I wanted to dive into that world. And so that's why I wrote the book, because this is a different world. And here we've got our schools that were designed in the early 1900s, and we're still herding kids through that way. And then we test them with some type of arbitrary test to make sure that we tell them that they're abnormal. And this is a different world. Kids' experiences are different individually, but still yet we treat them like a kid from the 1900s that didn't even have hardly electricity. So I'm hoping that this book will bring to light a lot of the things that are happening within our children's world, and maybe it will create some change within our legislators and those policymakers to understand that we need to quit treating kids as a herd of cattle and start looking at them individually. Right now we're losing our vocational programs, we're losing our arts programs, so we can add math classes and reading classes, because that's what we test. So we're teaching to this test. We need to add all of these vocational classes back, and even more, and teach kids how to live, how to be social with one another, because right now they're in the electronic world. We need to teach them how to get out of that world.
That's right. And again, the book, Education in a Violent World, Dr. Webb, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find out more information, like I said, about the book and everything else you've got going on social media-wise as well.
Sure. You can go to drstevewebb.com. That's drstevewebb.com. And while you're there, download my free guide to staying safe in public. We're all trying to get back in public after this COVID-19 pandemic. So we've got a lot of mental health issues going on out there with all of this staying at home stuff. So be careful when you get out there. And you can also go to any major bookstore and Amazon and download the book. Or certainly you can contact me through the drstevewebb.com website if you need me to come talk to your PTA or teachers or administrators, school boards, whatever. We've got to stand together on this if we're going to truly save children. And I've presented all over the nation, and this is not just isolated to one area. This is uniform across the nation. We're going to keep losing kids until we start addressing the systemic issues that we have in our schools.
That's right. And again, the book, Education in a Violent World, Dr. Steve Webb. It's been great to visit with you this morning, and hopefully you have a great rest of your week, and we can talk again real soon, my friend.
Thank you so much for helping me get the word out. I appreciate it.
Up next is country artist and friend Raleigh Keegan. Had the chance to visit with him a couple of years ago, have visited with him over the years since then. Had the chance to sit down and speak with him yesterday. Thought we'd share that visit with you today as well. You know, we got to meet Raleigh, I guess it's been about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, at CMA Fest in Nashville. And I was telling him this before we started the podcast, is that something about that guy stuck out. And I reached out to him a couple weeks ago, said, we got to get him on. And Raleigh Keegan on the line. And first off, Raleigh, thanks so much for being a part of the podcast.
Well, man, thanks for the kind words and for having me on again. It was great to meet you. I guess that was a year and a half ago, back when CMA Fest still existed and we had concerts.
What a difference a year makes, right, Raleigh?
What a difference a year. Man, I'll tell you what, if you would have told me in January that we would have this year, man, I think I would have just went to sleep and never woke up until 2021.
You would have stopped any complaints about 2019, right?
Oh my gosh. And yeah, I thought 2019 was a rough year. Goodness gracious.
Now I know that I've been watching the stuff on Facebook and in all the other socials as well, but I know that you're in studio doing some work right now. And how trying has that process been during all the slowdown? Has that been maybe a boost to the inspiration for you?
Man, honestly, I have enjoyed writing more during this quarantine than I feel like I ever have. I feel like I have a renewed passion for music. Honestly, maybe more of a passion for music than I've ever had. So that has been great. But I started a record 2019, I started a record in November, I think it was. And we're just now done with 8 out of the 14 songs, which is great. I mean, I can start releasing them. Like, I've got one that comes out later this month. But, I mean, without, it has slowed down the process significantly. And it's crazy because for a long time there, when everyone was super locked down, it was like you had to try and Zoom with people who were like session players to get them to play the right parts and stuff. And it was crazy hard. But honestly, as far as like, I'm just more excited about music than I've ever been. So I feel like I'm in a good spot, weirdly. And I haven't played a show in 6 months, so that's strange.
And but you have been playing it and getting on live on the socials, and I know that it's uplifted my spirit. So, and I know it's got to do that for other people. And is that what keeps it fresh and keeps it alive for you in your heart?
Oh man, well, it's one of the. I mean, I think it's crazy. So being in isolation for how long it was, now it's like a little different. Things are opening back up, but man, I feel like getting on there and going live literally kept me going because people would be encouraging and I would like share new songs and people would be like, I love that song. And I'd be like, good, I don't suck at this. I'm going to keep going even through this quarantine. Yeah. So it was great.
Now tell us a little bit about maybe the new tune that is maybe the most dear to you right now. Where did that go in the process?
Well, I think it'll come out someday. So obviously I started this record that's about to come out before quarantine started. But there's a couple songs on that record about my story. About my birth father who kind of left my birth mother, and then my birth mother who, had me when she was in prison or whatever. And just about those kind of stories that are really dear to me. So I'm excited for those to come out. But it'll be a little while. I think we've got some, a couple songs before those come out will come out. But I'm really, really, really excited about those. I'm really excited about this record that's about to come out. I feel like, who knows, it might be self-titled. I'm not sure, but I'm just I'm more proud of it than anything I've done. I know a lot of people say that, but believe me when I say I'm my own worst critic. And I know when I know when something's mediocre, including I'm probably harder on myself than I should be. So I'm really excited about like the direction that I've gone in. And yeah, man, I'm honestly just excited. I don't have any idea which way the world's going to turn, but I'm just excited. I'm excited for music, and I'm kind of just like on this journey.
Now, what about you has grown the most in this time that you've been able to maybe look inward? Where have you grown the most?
Oh man, I would say one thing is like waiting. So, I have a song title. Maybe I'll write it someday, but like "Hurry Up and Wait." And I just felt like during quarantine, every single part of my life, I was waiting. I was waiting on our house to be finished. I was waiting for the quarantine to lift. I was waiting for my record to be done. I was waiting for quarantine to end. I was, it felt like literally I was waiting on every area of my life and waiting on God to answer and be like, what are you doing, God? And I feel like, in a little bit of like a love swat or tap or whatever, God said, you need to like look at me and wait on me and trust me. So I think that's probably what I would say I had. Like, it's not like I went and sought after growing that way, but I was like forced into it, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. Now, the social media, the Facebook Lives and all that stuff, was that hard as this first got underway, or was that just kind of in your wheelhouse already?
I mean, it's a little awkward at first because you don't know. Like, Facebook Lives can be awkward sometimes because there's like a delay. You talk to some people and you like ask them a question and then you have to wait like 30 seconds for an answer and you're just sitting there waiting. But man, like you kind of get good at them. You kind of just you're like, you just start talking and then you don't stop. And if you watch The Office, the show, you can just BS your way through it. You can just kind of improv and do what Michael Scott would do.
Now, who's been the person that you've been able to lean on in the times that we've been so apart? We've had to look inward. When you've had those hard times, who's been the person that you've been going to?
Whew, I would say 3 people. One would be my wife, Shelby. She's been really helpful and just an amazing support system for me. My manager, Julianne, she's like a counselor. I mean, I'll tell you what, like, God bless her for dealing with me and other artists. Because, I mean, artists aren't the most, like, I feel like most good artists, like, aren't the most stable of people. Let's just say that. And so, I happen to be one of them. And so I'm, God bless Julianne. You're awesome for dealing with me. And then, man, just like, I don't know, like I literally like had so much time to do stuff. I would just read my Bible in the mornings and be like, I just prayed. I don't know what else. Like I was a wreck the first half of quarantine, and then I got used to it and like really started to enjoy it. So I don't know. I would say those 3.
And Raleigh, we talked about the new music that's upcoming. Where can folks? I talked about the Facebook as well. I want to make sure and let our listeners or our viewers, however it goes, know where to find you social media wise, Facebook, and what kind of upcoming stuff you got going.
So I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Raleigh Keegan, and it's not one of the fake pages. It's the one with the blue check mark. I mean, dude, so many people make weird fake. People have too much time on their hands. look for the check marks, the blue check marks, and then on Facebook, it's just look up Raleigh Keegan, and it's the one with the blue check mark. And so those are my pages. But I've got a single that's coming out September 25th. I know when this will air, Cameron, but so it comes out September 25th, and you can pre-save it or follow me on Spotify. All my music's on Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, all of that stuff. So yeah, just be on the lookout, because I'm going to start releasing songs from this full-length record, my very first full-length record, which I'm stoked about.
Well, I'm excited about that as well. And Raleigh, I appreciate you taking some time to be on the podcast, and looking forward to the new music, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon, my friend.
Thanks for having me on, man.
For more information, check out his website, RaleighKeegan.com. You can also check him out on Spotify and anywhere else you get your music. Our next guest is Ashleigh Banfield. She's got a new show, Judgment with Ashleigh Banfield, premiering this Sunday, September 13th, on Court TV. Always good to have our friends back on the show, and excited to talk about a new show, Judgment with Ashleigh Banfield. And obviously, we've got Ashleigh on the line with us this morning. And Ashleigh, always good to visit with you, my friend.
Cameron, it's just great to hear your voice. I hope you're surviving pandemic okay.
We're doing whatever the new normal is. I think that's what everybody's doing, right, Ashleigh?
Yeah, I personally love it because I don't love commuting an hour and a half to work every day. So I'm actually doing great. And I'm sorry if everybody else is climbing the walls in their house. I like my house.
There you go. Now, the new series starts this Sunday. It's going to be 8 Eastern, 7 local time. Judgment with Ashleigh Banfield. And Ashleigh, tell us about the new series that's coming out, and what folks can expect from it.
So what we have done, Cameron, is at Court TV we have amassed hundreds of thousands of hours of trial video, and it sits in the archives just waiting for a happy set of eyes to look over it and choose all the best stuff. And that's what we did. We went through it all, and we culled it to find the most compelling cases that transfixed this country. You know, everything from Casey Anthony to Jodi Arias to Amber Geiger, O.J. Simpson, Susie Mowbray, which was in Texas right next door to you, Shante Millard, again, another Texas case. And we decided to take our viewers inside that courtroom for our magazine program. So while Crime and Justice is often showcased in a magazine format with lots of lights and fancy, recreations and all the rest, we're going straight to the heart of the facts. This is a time in our lives where facts are really important and people really appreciate them. So we're going to take you into the courtroom, and we're going to show you how that process went from start to finish with all the evidence, all the testimony, and the facts in the case. And you may be surprised. You could change your mind with a little bit of distance and time, and seeing it all in a new light and seeing it all together, you may feel differently about the outcome.
And when you look back at these outcomes, Ashleigh, how many times do you look back and, like you said, setting a new set of eyes and maybe a little bit of distance to gain perspective? How many times have you yourself been surprised as an end result?
Well, there was a case in Texas, a football player who was wrongfully accused of molesting a little 4-year-old boy, and was jailed at 18 years old for 40 years or for 25 years, and he wasn't going to get out until his late 40s. And that was one of those cases where some evidence surfaced later, and a very magnanimous prosecutor agreed to say, you know what, I think we may have gotten it wrong. I am going to work hard with this defense appellate attorney to reverse this case. And that was the case of Greg Kelly. It's just a spectacular case that showed that we are fallible, and we have to be open to different opinions and different theories and different evidence. So I have seen that play out. And in the case of Casey Anthony, I hope that viewers will watch, and that's our premiere episode this Sunday at 8. That's a case where I hope viewers will tune in, and with the benefit of a little bit of time and distance, they will see what I saw sitting in that courtroom start to finish, from jury selection right through to verdict. And they will see that the prosecutors made a massive demand of that jury, and it would have been a demand that I, myself, sitting on a jury, would not have agreed to. So I felt like the jury got it right in Casey Anthony. Not to say I think she's innocent. I don't think she's innocent. I think she's a dangerous person who probably did something very neglectful and very reckless with her child and caused the death of her child. I just don't think she's a first-degree premeditated murderess who deserves the death penalty because the evidence didn't show it. Prosecutors just asked way too much.
As you look at the old footage, does rehashing these stories, does it build your faith in the justice system, or does it maybe make you scratch your head a little bit more?
So I'm always a little back and forth on that, to be honest, Cameron. I feel like we have one of the best systems in the world, bar none, but I also feel that we are fallible. And so when I see wrongful convictions, it turns my stomach. But what really turns my stomach is wrongful execution, because you don't get a mulligan if you're going to make that choice. And as a democracy, I think we need to think long and hard about just how perfect we are in our American jurisprudence. And if we're not perfect, should we really be taking a life? If we screw it up and then, oops, posthumously have to exonerate someone, well, really, what does that matter? Posthumous exonerations, please. That's not a remedy for making that kind of egregious mistake. So, yes, there are times where I look at our system and say, we can do better, we should do better. And that's not to say, Cameron, let me be real clear, that if someone did something to my family member that I've seen play out in court that I couldn't pull the lever myself, I could. What I'm saying is, we are real bad sometimes at handling evidence and handling science and then assuming the science is perfect. The science is great. The humans suck.
Oh, how many times I say that on a daily basis, Ashleigh?
I know. And I hope that's the kind of thing that will make people think differently about the death penalty. It isn't about your ethics or retribution. I get that. I'm human too. It's about whether you're really comfortable making a permanent decision and then finding out 20 years later that you got it wrong. Now what are you going to do? Now what are you going to do? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with, say, 20, 30 innocent people in America having been executed wrongly over the years, proven so, in order to carry out future executions? Are you okay with that? I am not.
That's a great question, Ashleigh. And again, the new season starts, the premiere episode is this Sunday night, 8 Eastern, 7 local time on Court TV. And Ashleigh, always want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can keep up with everything you got going on social wise as well.
I am on Facebook, I am on the Twitter, and I'm on Instagram as well, and I'm verified. So look for the blue check. Because there are a lot of other people who think they're Ashleigh Banfield too, and I can tell you they're not.
There you go. Well, Ashleigh, always great to visit with you. Success on the new series, and again, look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Cameron, always good to talk to you. Stay safe out there, my friend.
Of course, you can follow her on all the socials at Ashleigh Banfield. Next up is our good friend and sports handicapper, Brandon Lang, the best in the business. We'll be talking about the upcoming NFL and college football seasons. Football season is upon us, and we've got our good friend Brandon Lang from BrandonLang.com, host of the Football Betting Show on the Believe Podcast Network, and of course the movie Two for the Money, made about Brandon. And man, that's quite the intro, Brandon, but you live up to it. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Man, it feels like it's been forever, with all the craziness that's going on, and to be on the kind of role I was on coming off the Super Bowl win with Kansas City, and then I think I went on a 19-4 college basketball run after that, and then Corona hit. And so to come out of Corona, and I think sports rebooted July 22nd. We gave the first 7 days back for free to anybody who wanted it. And, I think I went 6-1 in baseball that week, and then we've just never looked back. We've won 5 of 7 weeks. We built the bankroll back to where it's at, and college football last Thursday, we had South Alabama plus the points over Southern Miss. They went outright. And then Monday night we had BYU over Navy 55-3. So nice 2-0 start to football season. And it's just, listen, the NFL's back, what we live for. Granted, it's going to be a little weird watching Arrowhead Stadium with 17,000 fans in there. But listen, we love college. We like watching college. But the NFL's the NFL, and I'm really excited to watch this game tonight.
That's right. Now, speaking of this weekend, Brandon, first off, a question about the betting tendencies. Have the numbers changed? Has the activity changed, I guess, is the biggest question.
Not really. I think that the biggest thing, and for your listeners, when handicapping these games, I think most importantly in the NFL, is to stick with teams that have a veteran presence, that have been together for a while. My take is I don't think not having preseason football hurts these teams as much as people think. I think if anything, it helps them because they're fresh. Their bodies are fresh. They're ready to roll, not drudging through 4 preseason games and travel and all the nonsense that comes with it. I believe where everything was hurt is the rookies not being able to get there and go through their OTAs, because it's such a huge indoctrination to get acclimated to what your life's going to be like as an NFL player, to get familiar with the system that you're going to be playing under, and to have all that stripped away and to then try to get them up to speed with Zoom calls and whatnot. I think if you want to win money betting the first few weeks of the NFL, you stick with teams that have veteran quarterbacks with a veteran presence with most of their offense or defense back, and roll the dice that way. Throw the point spread out the window. Lose with veteran teams that have been together, because if you have a rookie presence, I think it's going to take them 5, 6, 7 games to get up to speed with I'm now playing in the NFL.
That does make sense. And you mentioned the season getting underway tonight. And Brandon, what's the first weekend look like for you?
Well, I've always been an underdog handicapper. That doesn't change. It kind of always remains the same. So I kind of look for the dogs, and I think there are some very sneaky dogs on the card tonight. I think over the posted totals to play. These teams have gone over the posted total the last 3 meetings since 2017. We all remember the 24-0, and the final score was 50-something to 30-something. Went over close to 90 points. I think the Chiefs offensively are going to score, and I think the weapons that Houston has added with Brandon Cooks and with Cobb, I think over the 53.5, 54 is the way to go. Sunday, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. I've said this for years on your show. I never trust Crimea Rivers on the road laying points to anybody. I just don't. Anytime you can go against Crimea Rivers, new team, new system, on the road against a Jags team that going all the way back to the last 10 times they've played since 2015, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 8-1-1 against the spread versus Indy. They just play Indy really, really tough. I'll grab the Jags as a juicy home dog on Sunday.
And anything as far as the NCAA, any intriguing matchups that you see for this weekend?
Well, I mentioned that I had South Alabama plus the points last Thursday night, beating Southern Miss as a 12.5-point underdog and beating them by double digits, 32-21, that I kind of am going to come right back with them. They're opening up their new stadium. They're at home against Tulane. They're an underdog again. I'll come right back with South Alabama plus the points. And Coastal Carolina's at Kansas. They won there last year in an outright upset, 12-7. I like them here. Kansas laid points last year twice, 0-2 with Les Miles, and they're 4-11 against the spread their last 15 since 2012. So big, juicy underdog in Coastal Carolina plus the points.
All right. Again, for more information, you can always visit him online at brandonlang.com. And Brandon, tell our listeners a little bit about some of the special offerings you guys have now.
Yeah, it never changes. 1-day free all access pass, every best bet for free. And like I said, it's been a great run since the reboot, July 23rd. And to get off to a perfect 2-0 start in football, NFL play tonight, college football over the weekend. Football's back. We had a great year last year, and I expect to do the same this year.
That's right. Well, Brandon, always great to visit with you, my friend. Have a great weekend, and looking forward to talking again next Thursday.
Me too.
All right, bud.
Of course, for more information, visit brandonlang.com. And our final guest is country singer, songwriter, and musician Zach Neal. This is the first chance for me to have to sit down and visit with Zach. We'll talk about his music, his influences, and, what we've all been going through over the last few months. First off, Zach, thank you so much for taking the time, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And Zach, COVID-19 has obviously played an impact on everybody. And with new music out, I mean, how much has it played an effect on the marketing this time around?
Well, it's been a challenge, no doubt. But you just have to get creative with it. And thankfully, because of technology, we're still able to, still kind of get on social media and promote on there. Obviously, we would much prefer to be able to, be touring around and playing shows and visiting in person, visiting the station in person and that kind of thing. But, we're just trying to make the best of it and make use of what we have available technology-wise.
Now, Zach, was music an obvious choice for you your whole life, or was it maybe something that you kind of fell into?
Well, I guess I kind of fell into it a little bit. I had always planned. I come from a farming family, several generations, and my plan in high school was, go to college, get my ag degree, and come home and farm, and that's what I was going to do. And then in high school, of course, I formed a band with some high school buddies, and we ended up actually doing pretty good. And next thing I know, ran into a guy, and he goes, "Hey," he says, "Man, I know some guys in Nashville," and he was a West Coast guy. He was a sound engineer, but he goes, "Man, I got some guys in Nashville. Maybe love to hook you up with." I said, and I was 16 at the time, and at 16 years old, you're everything sounds great, So I said, "Yeah, sure, that'd be great," and I haven't looked back since.
What's that road been like for you thus far?
Well, it's been I've been very fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate that I've been doing this full time for a while now and making my living playing music. And just like any other job, it's you got good days and bad days, But overall, I'm just grateful that people have been responsive to what I do, and the live it goes great live. It's always a really good time live, and people seem to respond well to what we do, and I'm just so grateful for that.
So you mentioned you've been at it for a while. You got to still harken back to the first time that you got to hear somebody in the crowd singing your words back to you. What was that like? And is that feeling what keeps you going even still today?
That's a feeling that never gets old. Because there's probably no more, affirmation that you're doing something right when you see that, hey, somebody likes my music enough that they've obviously listened to the song enough to learn the words, and they're singing at the top of their lungs, having a great time. So that's about as good as it really gets, I guess, as far as an artist, and getting that feedback. That's the most immediate feedback you can get.
That's right. And one of the things I've asked everybody, all the artists in this time, is different folks get inspired in different circumstances. Are you finding it? Are you finding right now writer's block, or are you finding it just flowing out of you with relative ease?
It comes in waves for me. For me, it's one of those where I'll go for 2 weeks and just be on a roll, and I'm just writing down everything that comes to mind, all the ideas, and then I get in a room and I sit there and just write, and then you'll go for a month where, no matter how hard you try, you can't come up with anything that's any good. And so it just comes in waves for me, and I know it's different for everybody, and but that's kind of how it works for me. So I just have learned that once those ideas start coming, you just got to start writing, because if you don't, they kind of go away almost as quickly as they come. So
now, who is your biggest? Who is the person that you rely on to always have your back, to be patting your shoulder whenever things are down? Who do you have that's always pushing you forward?
Well, my manager, Tom. The great thing about that, and it's important to have this, I think, is someone that says, "Hey, awesome job," and someone who says, "Hey, man, you can do better." You always need to have that person that keeps you honest. And of course, I actually still run stuff by childhood friends, guys that have known me since we were kids, and I just be like, "Hey, man, what do you think about this?" And they obviously are very comfortable just being honest with me. They're like, "Man, not your best work," or hey, man, we love that, or and I appreciate getting that kind of feedback because it's easy to get into your own bubble and think you're really on to something, and maybe you're not.
And Zach, for you, being in the industry like you have for a while, have you become a social media? Have you become a pro at the social media now? As especially over the last few months, I mean, it's kind of the way you've been having to do it all right now, isn't it?
Yes. I'm not going to say I'm a pro at it by any means. I see some people that are pretty elaborate in their social media videos that they take, but no, I have definitely really stepped it up, I think, in terms of social media because you've kind of had to. I've kind of been forced to. But I will say this: I enjoy my favorite part of social media is actually hearing back from people, and getting that response. Whether it's putting out a new song, whether it's I was just in Vegas. I think I mentioned that we just got back from Vegas, and I got a pile of people, who saw us in Vegas. Were like, "Man, it was awesome," and so it's really nice to be able to kind of get that direct feedback from them, from people, and most of the feedback's usually good. Most of it. you always get that one social media person that maybe just has to say something that's not quite as flattering.
Yeah, they're just trying to do it for their friends. They're saying, "Watch this."
That's exactly it. But that's the social media world we live in. But overall, people have been great.
Now, the latest single, "Something in the Stars," I wanted to give you an opportunity to explain this. And what do you hope what feedback are you getting from the listeners? What they're getting out of the single, I guess, is what I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. So the feedback we're getting, because this song is so different from really anything else I've ever done. I'm a pretty traditional country guy, and that's just what I love. That's just what I know how to do. And so we took this song that is definitely not a real traditional country, chord progression and that kind of thing, but we countrified it with, it's still, fiddle and steel guitar and that kind of thing. But we just had fun with it. And because it's such a quirky song, but I loved it because it was one of those songs that I heard it one time and I thought, man, that's such a different kind of song. I don't know. That's kind of maybe out there a little bit. But next thing I know, 2 weeks after I'd heard it the one time, I was going around and I couldn't get it out of my head. And so that's one of the things I found since we put this out, that when we have been able to play a show, you kind of start it and people are kind of, "Oh, this is kind of weird." You can see it on their faces. And by the time you get to that second chorus, people are like singing along and actually kind of getting into it. And so that's always a good thing. But it's definitely something different for me, but that's also part of what's fun about it, is that it is something that doesn't sound like everything else that I've done.
And for you, when you change it up like that, does it make the lyrics or the story of the song kind of stick out because of the difference of in the sound?
Absolutely. When we cut this, when we were in the studio, we basically, we're just kind of thinking, well, how are we going to do this? And I finally just said, all right, guys, let's just go in and have fun with this. Let's not overthink this song. Let's go in and have some fun and see what happens. And that's exactly what we did. It was fun to see musicians be able to, the whole mood lightened when we started recording this and tracking this. You could tell it because it was something so different than what they normally play. So it was one of those kind of things where they were just like, all right, yeah, this is so out there. Let's just have some fun with it and see what happens. And I think that really comes across on the record.
And the name "Something in the Stars," it makes sense that it is something out there, right?
Yes.
Well, Zach, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can keep up with all the music, the upcoming tour dates, and all your socials as well.
Yes, of course. That you can find my website, ZachNeilMusic.com, Facebook and Instagram at ZachNeilMusic. Of course, everywhere you download music and get your music these days, if you're still buying music, so which I would appreciate. But all the platforms, and just look up Zach Neil, and I should pop up. Or you can just Google me, and I'll pop up as well.
There you go. Well, Zach, it's been great to get to visit with you this morning. I'm looking forward to checking out more of the new music, and hopefully we can catch up face-to-face one of these days real soon.
I really would love to do that. It would be great to get to come by in person, for sure.
All right. Well, Zach, hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to talking again real soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Again, check him out online at ZachNeilMusic.com. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, or anything else you'd like to know, find me on Instagram at AKA_Cameron, on Twitter at Cameron Dole, on my Facebook page at Cameron Dole Altus. Also, if you'd like to help out in the funding for the podcast, feel free to click on the support tab and follow the instructions. We'll see you soon for episode 16.